Daiho Kim sat in the back row of the Federation Council chambers and tried not to feel small. Around him, beings from across the galaxy discussed trade routes, territorial disputes, and technology exchanges in languages that hurt his human ears. The translator device in his ear buzzed constantly, turning alien words into something he could understand. Nobody looked at him. Nobody asked for his opinion. Nobody cared that Earth even existed. The Velthari representative stood at the center of the chamber. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. She spoke about energy production quotas, and every other species listened carefully. The Velthari controlled most of the galaxy's power sources. When they spoke, everyone paid attention. Daiho raised his hand. The chamber grew quiet, but not in a good way. Several aliens made sounds that his translator said meant annoyance. "Ambassador Kim from Earth," the council speaker said. His voice made it clear he wished Daiho would sit down and stay quiet. "What do you want to say?" "My people need better power sources," Daiho said. "Our cities are growing. Our population is increasing. The fusion reactors we have are not enough anymore." The Velthari representative turned toward him. Her crystal face had no expression, but somehow Daiho felt she was laughing at him. "Humans still use fusion?" she asked. "How quaint." Other aliens made chittering sounds. The translator told him they were amused. "We have applied for technology sharing programs," Daiho continued. "We have offered to trade rare minerals from our system. We have asked to join research partnerships, but every request is denied." "Perhaps," said the Mordek Consortium representative, floating in his gas-filled suit, "humans should focus on reaching a basic level of civilization first. Your species has barely left your home planet." This was not entirely true, but close, enough to sting. Earth had exactly one interstellar ship. Most other species had thousands. Furthermore, the Kethvar military advisor added, his armored form imposing even while seated, "Primitive species must prove they can handle advanced technology responsibly. Your people still fight wars over resources and territory." Daiho wanted to argue, but he knew it was pointless. Every species in the Federation had been through the same process. They had all started as primitive worlds, worked their way up, and eventually gained access to galactic technology. The system worked. It just worked very slowly. The council speaker looked at his schedule display. "Ambassador Kim, your concerns are noted. Please submit any formal requests through proper channels. We must move on to more pressing matters." Daiho sat down. Around him, the discussion returned to important things: mining rights in the outer spiral, trade disputes between the major powers, military movements near contested borders, things that mattered to civilizations that actually controlled something. Meanwhile, far from the Federation capital, Captain Heejin Park floated in the command chair of humanity's only real starship. The Soul's Pride was not much to look at. Parts of it were built from Earth materials. Other parts came from alien scrapyards. The entire ship looked like it had been put together by someone who did not quite know what they were doing. This was mostly true. "Captain," said Minho Choi from the engineering station, "the quantum drive is making that sound again." Hyejin listened. The sound was like a sick animal trying to sing. "The same sound as last week?" "Worse." She sighed. The Soul's Pride was supposed to be patrolling the edges of human space, showing the flag and making contact with other species. Instead, they spent most of their time fixing things that should not break. "Can you keep it running until we reach the next station?" she asked. "Maybe. If we reduce speed by 30% and pray to whatever gods watch over badly designed spaceships." This was life for humanity in the galaxy. They had been accepted into the Federation 23 years ago, after first contact with a Velthari exploration ship. The aliens had been polite but not impressed. Humans were just another primitive species taking their first steps into the larger universe. The Federation had rules about this. New species got limited access to galactic technology. They could buy basic star drives, simple weapons, and communication equipment. Everything else had to be earned through proving their worth over decades or centuries. Most species accepted this system. They built up their civilizations slowly, learned from more advanced races, and eventually became full members of galactic society. It was orderly. It was sensible. It prevented primitive species from destroying themselves with technology they did not understand. But humans were not like most species. Dr. Sunmi Lee stood in her laboratory on Europa Station and stared at data. That made no sense. She had been studying alien biology for 5 years, trying to understand how other species had evolved differently from humans. The Federation had given her access to basic biological databases, but she suspected there was much more information being kept from her. The problem was that human curiosity did not respect access levels. Sunmi had started by studying the data she was allowed to see. Then she began asking questions about gaps in that data. Then she started making educated guesses about what the missing information might contain. Her guesses led to experiments. Her experiments led to theories. Her theories led to more questions. This was how humans approached everything, and it made other species nervous. Dr. Lee, her assistant Bogum, said, looking up from his workstation, "I've been analyzing those tissue samples from the Kethvar diplomatic mission." "What did you find?" "Their cellular structure is completely different from anything in the Federation databases. Look at this." He brought up a holographic display showing alien cells at the molecular level. "They have organelles that shouldn't be able to exist. The energy requirements alone should make them impossible." Sunmi studied the display. Bogum was right. The Kethvar cells were doing things that violated several laws of physics as humans understood them. "Have you shared this with the Federation Biological Research Council?" "I tried. They said the information was classified above my clearance level. This was typical. Humans discovered something interesting, tried to share it or learn more about it, and ran into walls of bureaucracy and access restrictions. Meanwhile, other species had been studying these things for thousands of years. Back in Earth's solar system, Dr. Jiwon Nam was having similar problems with physics. Her team at the research station near Jupiter was working on improving human, faster-than-light communication systems. The technology they had been given by the Federation worked, but it was slow and limited. Humans wanted something better. The problem was that human scientists approached problems differently than other species. Where aliens followed established research protocols and respected the boundaries between different fields of study, humans jumped between disciplines, combined unrelated theories, and tried experiments that more civilized species considered wasteful or dangerous. "The quantum field equations don't balance," Jiwon told her team during their daily briefing. "According to Federation science, our communication array should not be able to achieve the ranges we're getting." "Maybe their science is incomplete," suggested researcher Taehyung Park. "Or maybe their scientists don't think the way we do," added technician Young Soo Han. "I've been reading their technical manuals. Everything is very systematic, very careful. They test one variable at a time, document everything, and never try anything that might be dangerous." Jiwon nodded. She had noticed this too. Alien science was thorough and methodical, but it lacked the wild creativity that drove human research. Other species built on what previous generations had discovered. Humans like to tear down old theories and build new ones from scratch. This difference in approach had not mattered much when humans were stuck on one planet, but now that they were part of galactic civilization, it was becoming more obvious. Human scientists kept asking questions that alien scientists had stopped asking centuries ago. The Federation noticed this, but they were not concerned. Primitive species always went through a phase of thinking they could improve on established galactic knowledge. Eventually, they learned to respect the wisdom of older civilizations and settled into the proper order of things. But humans were not settling into anything. If anything, they were becoming more restless and more curious as they learned more about the galaxy. Ambassador Daeho Kim returned to Earth after another frustrating session at the Federation Council. He met with President Soo Jin-yoon to give his report. "They still treat us like children," he told her. "We ask for better technology. They tell us to be patient. We offer to help with research. They tell us we're not ready. We request trading, partnerships. They offer us scraps." President Yoon looked tired. Leading humanity into galactic civilization was harder than anyone had expected. What do our people think about this situation? Our scientists are frustrated. Our engineers are angry. Our military leaders are worried. Daiho paused. And our citizens are starting to ask why we joined the Federation at all. This was the real problem. Humans had expected that joining galactic civilization would mean rapid advancement and new opportunities. Instead, they found themselves stuck at the bottom of a hierarchy that seemed designed to keep them there. Maybe we need to think about this differently, President Yoon said. Dr. Jiwon Nam had not slept in 36 hours. She stood in the converted asteroid mining station that served as humanity's most advanced research facility, staring at readings that should not exist. Run the test again, she told Young Soo Han. That's the 15th time, Dr. Nam. The results are always the same. Then we're making a mistake somewhere. These numbers are impossible. Young Soo looked at the displays showing energy output levels that violated everything they knew about physics. Maybe impossible is just another word for something we haven't figured out yet. The research team had been trying to improve their communication array for months. The Federation had given humanity basic, faster-than-light message technology, but it was limited and slow. A message to Earth took 3 days. Emergency signals took 12 hours. For a species used to instant global communication, this felt like going backward in time. So they had decided to build something better. The problem was that nobody had told them it was impossible. Look at this, said researcher Tae-hyung Park, pointing to a holographic display. When we increased the quantum field resonance, something unexpected happened. The energy didn't just get focused, it got amplified. Amplified how? Jiwon asked. By a factor of approximately 10,000. Jiwon stared at the numbers. According to Federation physics, this kind of amplification required exotic matter that could only be created in the cores of dying stars. The equipment needed to handle such materials cost more than Earth's entire gross planetary product. Yet somehow, they were getting similar results with copper wiring and salvaged alien components. There has to be an error in our measurements, she said. I thought so too, Tae-hyung replied. So I built a completely separate measurement system. Same results. Young-soo walked over to the experimental device at the center of the laboratory. It looked like a metallic box covered in wires and cooling tubes. Nothing about it suggested it could do anything remarkable. What if the error isn't in our measurements? What if it's in their theories? You're suggesting that Federation science is wrong, Jiwon asked. I'm suggesting that Federation science might be incomplete. They've been using the same basic theories for thousands of years. Maybe they stopped looking for new answers because the old answers worked well enough. This was a dangerous thought. The Federation's technological superiority was built on millions of years of accumulated knowledge. Suggesting that humans could improve on that knowledge after 23 years seemed absurd, but the readings were undeniable. We need to understand what's actually happening here, Jiwon said. If this is real, it changes everything. Meanwhile, Captain Hyejin Park was dealing with her own impossible situation. The Soul's Pride was conducting a routine patrol near the outer edge of human space when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. Report, she called out. Energy surge. From the research station, Minho Choi replied from his engineering station. Massive power output detected, it's off the charts. Are they under attack? No, Captain, the energy signature doesn't match any known weapon. It looks like they're generating it themselves. Hyejin frowned. The research station was supposed to be working on communication improvements, not power generation. Open a channel. The main screen flickered to life, showing Dr. Jiwon Nam's tired face. Behind her, the research laboratory was filled with excited scientists running between workstations. Dr. Nam, what's your status? We're reading massive energy outputs from your position. Captain Park, we've made a discovery. We're not entirely sure what it means yet, but it's significant. How significant? Jiwon paused as if she was afraid to say the words out loud. We may have found a way to generate unlimited energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The bridge of the Soul's Pride went completely silent. Say that again, Dr. Nam. We were trying to improve our communication array by manipulating quantum field resonances. Instead, we accidentally tapped into what appears to be zero-point energy. The power output is, Well, it's theoretically impossible according to Federation physics. Hyejin looked at Minho, who was staring at his instruments with his mouth open. How much power are we talking about? The test device generated enough energy to run this entire station for a week, and it's no bigger than a briefcase. This was when everything changed. Dr. Sunmi Lee was the first person outside the research team to understand what had happened. She arrived at the station 12 hours later, along with a team of Earth's best scientists. What she saw made her question everything she thought she knew about the universe. The device sat on a simple laboratory bench, surrounded by monitoring equipment. It hummed quietly, drawing no external power, yet generating a steady stream of clean energy that the station systems could barely handle. "Show me how it works," she said. Jiwon led her through the process step by step. "We start with a standard quantum field generator. Then we add these resonance chambers that amplify the field oscillations. When the field reaches critical resonance, something happens at the subatomic level. We're pulling energy directly from the quantum foam of space-time itself." "That should be impossible," Sunmi said. "That's what we thought too. But here we are." Sunmi studied the device carefully. The design was elegant in its simplicity. Unlike Federation technology, which required rare materials and complex manufacturing processes, this device was built from common elements that could be found on any industrial world. "Have you told anyone else about this?" she asked. "Not yet. We wanted to make sure it was real first." "It's real," Sunmi said. "The question is what we do about it." This was the moment that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. They had stumbled upon technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization, but they were still considered a primitive species by the Federation. Sharing this discovery too quickly could result in the technology being taken away from them and distributed to more responsible civilizations. On the other hand, keeping it secret would be almost impossible. The energy outputs were too large to hide. Other species would notice eventually. "We need to tell Earth," Sunmi decided, "but we also need to be very careful about how we do this." Back on Earth, President Soo-Jin Yoon listened to the report from her science advisors with growing amazement and concern. The implications of unlimited clean energy were staggering, but so were the potential consequences. "How long before other species notice what we've discovered?" she asked. "Days, maybe weeks," replied Science Minister Kyungju Ryu. "The energy outputs are too large to mask completely, and if we start building more devices, the materials purchases alone will attract attention." "What about the Federation? How will they react?" "Unknown. This technology could destabilize their entire economic system. Species like the Velthari have built their power on controlling energy production. If anyone can generate unlimited power from basic materials, their influence disappears overnight." President Yoon walked to her office window and looked out at the city below. Seoul sprawled to the horizon, 10 million people going about their daily lives, unaware that their species had just made the most important discovery in galactic history. "What are our options?" she asked. "We can try to keep it secret while we figure out how to use it," Minister Ryu replied, "or we can announce it publicly and deal with the consequences." "And if we keep it secret? We buy ourselves time to build up our defenses and establish a stronger position. But eventually someone will notice, and when they do, it might look like we were hiding something dangerous. And if we announce it, we face immediate pressure from every major power in the galaxy. Some will want to buy the technology, others will want to steal it. A few might decide it's too dangerous to exist at all." President Yoon knew that whatever decision she made would affect not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Unlimited energy meant the end of scarcity. It meant freedom from dependence on the major powers. It meant that any species, no matter how primitive, could become completely self-sufficient. The established galactic order was built on control of resources and technology. This discovery threatened to make that order obsolete. Meanwhile, word was already beginning to spread. Captain Hyejin Park had filed a routine patrol report mentioning unusual energy readings from the research station. That report had been forwarded through normal Federation channels, where it was noticed by alien analysts who specialized in monitoring primitive species for signs of dangerous technological development. The Velthari Intelligence Service flagged the report for review. The Mordek Consortium added Earth to their watch list. The Kethvar Military Command began updating their files on human capabilities. None of them took it seriously yet. Humans were a young species with limited scientific knowledge. The idea that they could have discovered something beyond current galactic understanding seemed ridiculous, but the energy readings were undeniable, and they were getting stronger. Dr. Jiwon Nam worked feverishly to understand exactly what her team had discovered. The more she studied the quantum field interactions, the more possibilities she saw. Zero-point energy was just the beginning. If they could manipulate quantum fields at this level, they might be able to affect matter at the subatomic scale. Dai could potentially restructure materials at the atomic level, she told her team. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim had never seen the Federation Council chambers so crowded. Every seat was filled, and additional observers lined the walls. Species that rarely bothered with council meetings had sent their highest-ranking diplomats. The air hummed with tension and barely contained excitement. For the first time in 23 years, everyone wanted to hear what the human representative had to say. The council speaker, a tall being from the ancient Thailand species, called for order. This emergency session has been called to address claims made by the Earth delegation regarding new energy technology. Ambassador Kim, please present your evidence. Dae-ho stood slowly, feeling the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon him. 3 weeks ago, these same beings had ignored him completely. Now they watched his every movement with intense interest. Honored Council, he began. Humanity has made a breakthrough in zero-point energy manipulation. We can now generate unlimited, clean power using simple equipment built from common materials. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species chittered with excitement. Others made sounds that the translator identified as skepticism or disbelief. The Velthari representative stood and spoke in her crystal-clear voice. "This is impossible," she declared. "Zero-point energy extraction requires exotic matter and containment fields that take centuries to develop. No species achieves this technology before reaching level 7 civilization status." "Nevertheless," Dae-ho replied, "we have achieved it." The Mordek Consortium representative floated forward in his gas-filled suit. "We demand proof. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." "Very well," Dae-ho said. He gestured to Dr. Sunmi Lee, who had been waiting in the observers section. She approached the center of the chamber carrying a device that looked remarkably ordinary. "This is a Mark I human zero-point generator," Dr. Lee announced. "It weighs approximately 5 kilograms and can be built in any standard workshop." She placed the device on the demonstration platform and activated it. The chamber's lights immediately brightened. Every energy detector in the building began registering massive power outputs. The device hummed quietly, drawing no external power, yet generating enough energy to supply a small city. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, the Kethvar military representative spoke. "How is this possible?" "We approach quantum field manipulation differently than other species," Dr. Lee explained. "Rather than trying to contain and control quantum fluctuations, we learned to work with them. We found resonance patterns that amplify naturally occurring zero-point oscillations." "Show us the technical specifications," demanded the Velthari representative. "I'm afraid that information is classified," Dae-ho said. This caused another eruption of noise. The concept of humans classifying technology was so absurd to the other species that several delegates laughed out loud. "Primitive species do not classify technology," the council speaker said sternly. "All Federation members share scientific knowledge for the benefit of galactic civilization." "We are willing to share," Dae-ho replied carefully, "but only through appropriate partnerships and agreements. This technology represents a significant advancement for humanity. We intend to use it responsibly." The Thailand Council speaker's expression darkened. "Ambassador Kim, you seem to misunderstand your species' position in the galactic community. Humans are level 2 civilization. You do not have the authority to withhold advanced technology from more developed species." "With respect, honored speaker, we disagree." The chamber fell completely silent. No Level 2 species had ever directly challenged the Council's authority. Captain Hyejin Park watched the broadcast from the bridge of the Soul's Pride, which was now stationed in Earth's solar system. The ship had been retrofitted with 3 zero-point generators, giving it more power than the Federation's largest dreadnoughts. More importantly, it had been joined by 12 other human vessels, all upgraded with the new technology. "Captain," Minho Choi reported, "I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout Federation space. The Kethvar hegemony has deployed 3 battle groups toward our sector. The Velthari Empire has mobilized their crystal ships. Even the peaceful Mordek are moving military assets." "They're scared," Hyejin realized. "They know what this technology means for their power structure." "What are your orders, Captain?" Hyejin looked at the tactical display showing alien fleets converging on human space. "We maintain defensive positions and wait. If they want to negotiate, we negotiate. If they want to fight—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Minho understood. Human ships were no longer the primitive vessels that barely qualified for space travel. With zero-point power sources, they could outrun, outgun, and outlast anything in the galaxy. Back on the research station, Dr. Jiwon Nam was making discoveries that went far beyond simple energy generation. Her team had learned to manipulate matter at the subatomic level, restructuring atomic bonds and even transmuting elements. "We can turn asteroids into any material we need," she explained to President Yoon during their daily briefing. "Iron into titanium, carbon into diamond, hydrogen into any heavier element. Resource scarcity is now obsolete." "What about military applications? Defensive systems that can phase shift matter, making our ships effectively invulnerable. Weapons that can disintegrate targets at the molecular level. Force fields that can protect entire planets." Jiwon paused. "But there's something else, Madam President. We think we can manipulate space-time itself." President Yoon leaned forward. "Explain." "If we can generate sufficient quantum field resonance, we might be able to create localized distortions in space-time, instantaneous travel across galactic distances, real-time communication with no delay, maybe even time dilation effects." The implications were staggering. Not only had humanity discovered unlimited energy, they had stumbled upon the fundamental forces that governed reality itself. Meanwhile, alien species throughout the galaxy were struggling to understand how humans had achieved the impossible. Velthari scientists worked frantically to replicate the human results, but their careful, methodical approach yielded nothing. They had spent millennia perfecting energy containment techniques, but humans had bypassed containment entirely. The Mordek Consortium's greatest minds analyzed every detail of the Federation Council demonstration, but their gas giant evolved. Brains, optimized for long-term thinking and resource management, could not comprehend the chaotic creativity that had led to the human breakthrough. The Kethvar hegemony's military scientists understood the implications better than anyone. Their entire civilization was built on technological superiority in warfare. If humans could generate unlimited power from simple devices, every weapon system in the Kethvar arsenal would become obsolete overnight. High Commander Zex Thul called an emergency meeting of the hegemony's war council. "The human development threatens our entire strategic doctrine," he announced. "Our weapons require massive power sources and exotic materials. Their technology can be built in any workshop using common elements. In a prolonged conflict, they could outproduce us by factors of thousands." "Then we must act quickly," replied Supreme General Kethmore, "before they have time to fully develop their capabilities." "Agreed. Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. We will demand they share their technology. If they refuse, we will take it." But the Kethvar were not the only species considering military action. The Velthari Empire's High Christarch had reached similar conclusions. "This technology destabilizes everything," she told her advisory council. "Our entire economy is built on energy production and distribution. If every species can generate unlimited power independently, our influence disappears. We could offer the humans partnership," suggested one advisor. "Partnership implies equality. We cannot accept a primitive species as our equals." "Then what do you propose?" We acquire the technology through whatever means necessary. Once it is under proper Velthari control, we can distribute it appropriately throughout the galaxy. Similar conversations were taking place in government chambers across Federation space. The established powers had built their civilizations on controlling advanced technology. The idea that a Level 2 species could leapfrog millions of years of development was not just surprising. It was threatening to the entire galactic order. Only a few species saw the human development as an opportunity rather than a threat. The Yao Zekan Collective, a group of small worlds that had always struggled under the dominance of larger powers, sent secret messages to Earth offering alliance and support. "We have watched the great powers divide the galaxy among themselves for centuries," their message read. "If your technology can change that balance, we want to help." Similar offers came from dozens of minor species that had been marginalized by the current system. They saw humans not as upstart primitives, but as potential liberators. Dr. Sunmi Lee established the first Human-Alien Cooperative Research Institute on Luna Station. Scientists from friendly species worked alongside human researchers, sharing knowledge and exploring the implications of zero-point manipulation. "This is what the Federation was supposed to be," she told her research teams. "Species working together for mutual benefit, not a hierarchy where the strong dominate the weak." The research progressed at an incredible pace. The first shots were fired at 1432 Galactic Standard Time in the Kepler 442 system. Captain Hyejin Park watched from the bridge of the Soul's Pride as 3 massive Kethvar dreadnoughts dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in front of her small patrol group. The alien warships were each 10 times larger than her vessel, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "This is High Commander Zexthul of the Kethvar Hegemony," came the transmission. "Human vessels, you will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your primitive technology will be confiscated for the safety of galactic civilization." Hyejin looked at her crew. Minho Choi was ready at the engineering station. Weapons Officer Sung-Ho Park had his hands hovering over the newly installed defense systems. Navigator Yoonji Kim was calculating escape routes, though they all knew running was no longer necessary. "This is Captain Hyejin Park of the Human Defense Force," she replied. "You are in violation of multiple Federation treaties by threatening peaceful vessels in neutral space. Withdraw immediately." The Kethvar commander's laughter came through, the speakers like grinding metal. "You dare threaten us? Your entire species has exactly 13 starships. We have brought 3 vessels that could destroy your entire fleet." "High Commander," Hyejin said calmly, "you are about to learn why quantity is not always more important than quality." The Kethvar dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously. Massive energy beams that could vaporize asteroids struck the human ships at point-blank range. According to every tactical manual in the galaxy, the human vessels should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, the beams passed harmlessly through the human ships, as if they were made of empty space. "Impossible!" Zexthul screamed across the communication channel. "Phase shift defensive systems," Hyejin explained pleasantly. "We can become intangible at will. Your weapons cannot hurt us." The Kethvar ships fired again, this time with different weapon types: plasma cannons, particle beams, gravity warheads. Nothing had any effect. The human ships remained serenely untouchable. "Now," Hyejin said, "let me show you what human weapons can do." The Soul's Pride fired a single beam at the lead dreadnought. The beam was thin, almost delicate-looking compared to the massive energy blasts the Kethvar had been using. It struck the alien ship's armor and simply went through it. But as it passed through the dreadnought's hull, something remarkable happened. The molecular structure of the armor began to change. Metal became gas. Advanced composite materials reverted to their basic atomic components. Weapon systems transformed into harmless hydrogen. Within minutes, the entire dreadnought had been converted into a cloud of inert matter. "Molecular restructuring weapon," Hyejin explained to the horrified alien commander. "We don't destroy your ships. We simply change them into something harmless." The remaining 2 Kethvar vessels tried to retreat, but human technology had advanced far beyond simple weapons and defenses. The soul's pride generated a localized space-time distortion that prevented faster-than-light travel in the area. "You cannot leave until we decide you can leave," Hyejin informed them. "But don't worry, we're not interested in conquest. We just want to make a point." The second dreadnought was converted into oxygen and water vapor. The third became a beautiful cloud of harmless carbon particles that sparkled in the system's starlight. "High Commander," Hyejin said, "please inform your superiors that humanity does not wish to fight anyone. But if we are attacked, we will defend ourselves. And as you can see, our definition of defense has become quite sophisticated." She opened a communication channel to Zexthul's escape pod. "We're sending coordinates for the nearest Federation station. There will be a rescue ship waiting for you there. I suggest you use your time in the escape pod to think about whether the HFY hegemony really wants to continue this conflict." News of the battle spread through the galaxy faster than light. The species that had viewed humanity as primitive were forced to reconsider their assumptions. The HFY hegemony's most powerful warships had been defeated in minutes by a single human vessel. But the real shock came from how the humans had won. They hadn't destroyed the enemy ships. They had transformed them. They hadn't killed the enemy crews, they had safely evacuated them to escape pods. Even in victory, humans had shown a level of restraint that was almost incomprehensible to species that had built their reputations on military might. President Sujin Yoon addressed the galaxy from the Federation Council chambers, speaking to a session that every major power had demanded to attend. "The HFY hegemony attacked human vessels without provocation," she announced. "We defended ourselves. We did not seek this conflict, and we do not wish to continue it. But we will not be intimidated by threats or conquered by force." The Velthari representative stood to speak. "Your species has developed weapons of unprecedented power. How do we know you will not use them for conquest?" "Because," President Yoon replied, "conquest is not in our nature. We could have destroyed the HFY vessels. Instead, we converted them into harmless matter and rescued the crews. We seek cooperation, not domination. But you refuse to share your technology," the Mordek Consortium representative pointed out. "We are willing to share with any species that approaches us as equals and partners, but we will not hand over our discoveries to civilizations that see us as primitives to be controlled." This was the moment when the galaxy's power structure began to change. For millions of years, the Federation had been controlled by a few ancient species that hoarded advanced technology and dictated terms to younger civilizations. Suddenly, the newest member of the Federation had technology that made the established powers obsolete. Dr. Jiwon Nam was invited to address the Federation Science Council, where she presented research that revolutionized galactic understanding of physics. "Zero-point energy manipulation is just the beginning," she explained to an audience of the galaxy's greatest scientists. "We have learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that govern reality. We can restructure matter, distort space-time, and access energy sources that were previously thought impossible," a Velthari scientist interrupted. "These capabilities should take millions of years to develop. How did a primitive species achieve them so quickly?" "Perhaps," Jiwon replied, "the problem is thinking of us as primitive. Human science approaches problems differently than other species. We question basic assumptions. We experiment with dangerous ideas. We combine unrelated theories in ways that more careful civilizations avoid. Such recklessness could be catastrophic. Another alien," scientist warned. "Or it could lead to breakthroughs that careful, methodical research never achieves. The universe is full of possibilities that we have barely begun to explore." She activated a holographic display showing the mathematical principles behind human zero-point manipulation. "This is not magic. It is simply a different approach to understanding how reality works. And we are willing to teach it to anyone who approaches us with respect and genuine interest in cooperation." The response was immediate and dramatic. Dozens of species sent delegations to Earth requesting scientific exchanges. University systems throughout the galaxy began offering courses in human-style creative physics. Young alien scientists started questioning the conservative research methods their cultures had used for centuries. But the established powers were not ready to accept the new reality. The Velthari Empire, Mordek Consortium, and what remained of the Kethvar hegemony formed an alliance aimed at containing human influence. They couldn't defeat human technology militarily, but they could use their political and economic power to isolate humanity from the rest of the galaxy. "We will embargo all trade with human settlements," announced the Velthari High Kristarch. "Any species that cooperates with the humans will be cut off from our technology and resources. Furthermore," added the Mordek Prime Director, "we will not recognize any scientific discoveries made through human methods. Reckless experimentation threatens the stability of galactic civilization." The remaining Kethvar leadership was more direct. "The human threat must be eliminated before it spreads. We call on all civilized species to join us in containing this dangerous development." The galaxy began to divide into two camps. The established powers and their client species formed, one side determined to maintain the old order. On the other side, humanity found itself joined by dozens of younger, smaller civilizations that saw an opportunity for freedom from the dominance of the ancient empires. Dr. Sunmi Lee established research stations throughout the territories of allied species sharing human technology and methods freely. The results were remarkable. Species that had been stagnant for centuries began making rapid advances. Civilizations that had been dependent on others for basic technology became self-sufficient within months. "This is what progress looks like," she told her research teams. "Not careful, controlled advancement dictated by those in power, but explosive growth driven by curiosity and cooperation." Captain Heejin Park found herself commanding not just human vessels, but a growing fleet of ships from allied species. All of them had been upgraded with human zero-point technology, making them more powerful than the traditional Federation fleets. The final battle began not with violence but with transformation. Captain Heejin Park stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history approached human space. 300 ships from the allied powers of the Velthari Empire, Mordek Consortium, and Kethvar hegemony had come to end humanity's threat to the established order once and for all. "They outnumber us 50-1, reported Minho Choi from his station. "Numbers stopped mattering the day we learned to manipulate reality itself," Yejin replied. "Open a channel to all ships, both ours and theirs." The main screen flickered to life, showing not just the bridge of the Soul's Pride, but similar views from dozens of human and allied vessels. At the same time, it connected to the command ships of the approaching enemy fleet. "This is Captain Heejin Park, speaking for the Human Defense Force and our allies," she announced. "To the crews of the approaching vessels, you have been sent here by leaders who fear change. They have told you that humanity threatens galactic civilization. They are right, but not in the way they think." High Kristarch Velandra of the Velthari Empire appeared on screen, her crystal form gleaming with anger. "Primitive humans, surrender now and your deaths will be swift." "Your Highness," Heejin replied respectfully. "With respect, I don't think you understand what's really happening. Here, this isn't a war between species. This is a choice between two different futures for the galaxy." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout both fleets, visible to every ship's crew. The displays showed worlds transformed by human technology. Dead planets brought to life through terraforming impoverished civilizations made prosperous through unlimited energy, species that had been enslaved for centuries now free and thriving. "This is what we offer," Hyejin continued. "Not conquest but liberation. Not dominance but cooperation. Your leaders fear us because we represent the end of their power. But we don't want to replace their power. We want to eliminate the need for that kind of power entirely." "Lies," roared Prime Director Morkath of the Mordek Consortium. "You seek to destabilize the order that has kept the galaxy peaceful for millions of years." Dr. Jiwon Nam's voice came through the communication system from the research station. "Prime Director, may I ask you something? When was the last time your people made a truly revolutionary scientific discovery?" The alien commander paused, clearly confused by the question. "I have studied your species' history," Jiwon continued. The Mordek were brilliant innovators 2 million years ago. You developed half the fundamental technologies that galactic civilization depends on. But for the last million years, your scientific progress has been almost completely stagnant. Do you know why? We have achieved a stable, efficient civilization, Morkath replied stiffly. You have achieved stagnation, Jiwan corrected. When you became a dominant power, your people stopped taking risks. They stopped asking dangerous questions. They stopped imagining impossible things. The same pattern has repeated throughout the galaxy. Success breeds caution, caution breeds stagnation, and stagnation breeds decay. Dr. Sunmi Lee's voice joined the conversation from Luna Station. Every species in this galaxy has incredible potential, but the current system prevents most of you from reaching it. Resources are controlled by the few. Technology is hoarded by the powerful. Innovation is discouraged because it threatens the status quo. What we offer, added President Su Jin-yoon from Earth, is a chance to break free from those limitations. Unlimited energy means no more fighting over resources. Freely shared knowledge means every species can advance at its own pace. An end to artificial scarcity means an end to the power structures built on controlling that scarcity. The communication channels filled with voices as crew members throughout the Allied fleets began speaking directly to each other. Human engineers explained zero-point technology to fascinated alien scientists. Allied species shared stories of how their worlds had been transformed. Young officers from all sides found themselves talking across battle lines about dreams of exploration and discovery. High Christarch Velandra tried to reassert control. Silence. This is psychological warfare designed to weaken our resolve. All ships prepare to attack. But something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in galactic history, the crews of the great warships were questioning their orders in real time. Your Highness? Came a voice from one of the Velthari crystal ships. Why are we fighting people who want to give us unlimited energy? Because, Velandra replied through gritted crystals, they threaten our way of life. But what if their way of life is better? Asked another crew member. Similar conversations were happening throughout the enemy fleet. Mordek gas breathers wondered why they should fight to preserve an economic system that kept their homeworlds dependent on expensive imports. Kethvar warriors questioned why they were being ordered to attack people who had shown mercy to their defeated comrades. Captain, Hijin Park made a decision that changed everything. All human and allied vessels, she announced, power down weapons and activate zero-point generators at maximum output. Let's show them what we're really offering. Every human ship began broadcasting unlimited clean energy to any vessel that wanted to receive it. The alien ships suddenly found their power systems supercharged beyond anything they had ever experienced. Weapons that had been straining their reactors now drew barely any power at all. Life support systems that had been carefully rationed could now run indefinitely. This is just a taste, Hyejin explained. This is what every ship in the galaxy could have. This is what every world could enjoy. Unlimited power, unlimited potential, unlimited freedom to grow and explore and become everything you're capable of being. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout the alien fleets, crews began demanding to know why their leaders had kept this technology from them. Why had they been told to fight against the people offering to share these miracles? High Christarch, Velandra made one last desperate attempt to maintain control. All ships attack now, before their propaganda weakens us further. A few vessels fired, but their weapons were absorbed harmlessly by human phase shift defenses. Most of the fleet simply refused to obey the order. I'm sorry, Your Highness, came a transmission from the flagship's own weapons officer. But I cannot fire on people who are trying to help us. The revolution was not violent. It was simply irresistible. Within hours, the great Allied fleet had transformed from an invasion force into a celebration. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to install zero-point generators on every ship. Scientists from dozens of species shared research and compared theories. Cultural exchange officers arranged for crew visits between vessels that had been enemies minutes before. Ambassador Daeho Kim found himself mediating not a war council, but a planning committee for the largest peaceful transformation in galactic history. The old Federation is finished, announced Zekan Prime Speaker Illyra. But what comes next? Something better, Deho replied. A true federation, based on cooperation instead of domination. Every species as an equal partner. Every world free to pursue its own destiny. The transformation spread across the galaxy, with the speed of light itself. Species that had been oppressed for millennia threw off the chains of the old system. Worlds that had been kept primitive deliberately now had access to technology that allowed them to reach the stars. Young civilizations that had been told to wait centuries for advancement found themselves leapfrogging their former masters. Dr. Jiwon Nam established the Galactic Institute for Creative Science, where researchers from every species worked together to push the boundaries of what was possible. Her motto became famous throughout the galaxy. There is no such thing as impossible, only unexplored. Dr. Sun Mi Lee's research stations became centers of learning that attracted students from across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies, for millions of years found themselves working side by side, united by curiosity and the desire to understand their universe. Captain Hyejin Park commanded the first truly integrated galactic fleet, with ships crewed by members of dozens of different species. They explored beyond the known galaxy, discovering wonders that the old system's careful, risk-averse approach would never have found. The former powers adapted or faded away. Some, like portions of the Velthari Empire, embraced the new system and rediscovered the innovative spirit they had lost long ago. Others, like the hardcore Kethvar militarists, retreated to isolated systems where they could maintain their old ways without interfering with galactic progress. But most remarkable of all was what happened to the ordinary citizens of the galaxy. Freed from artificial scarcity and the limitations imposed by the old power structures, species after species experienced unprecedented golden ages. Art, science, philosophy, and exploration flourished as entire civilizations were freed to pursue their dreams. 5 years after the discovery in the asteroid research station, Ambassador Daeho Kim stood before the reformed Galactic Federation as its first elected Secretary General. The assembly hall was filled with representatives from over 10,000 worlds, all of them equals, all of them free to chart their own courses among the stars.